It's now.
Hi, and welcome back to ConTinual. Tonight, we're going to have a star-studded mess here, I suspect, as we talk about how to go about hand selling at conventions. How do you talk to people? How do you interact with people? I'm not sure that this is the best group to tell you, but this is all that you're going to get tonight. I'm your host, Jim Nettles, and let's see who else has decided to join this morass. Oh, Total Recar, you're up first.
Oh, it's me! I've been picked! What was this panel again? Oh, hi. I am R.E. Carr, the author of the Rules Undying series, the False Icon series, and currently under contract by John Falstaff at Falstaff Books, which is John Hartness, and I've already messed up 10 seconds into the panel. It's a new record for me. You can find me at rachelecarr.com, and I'm going to shut up before I make any more mistakes tonight.
Patrick, let's see if you can follow that one up.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. I am Patrick Dugan. I am the author of the Darkest Storm series through Falstaff Books, along with the Watchers of Hysteria. New books out today.
John?
Hi, I'm John Hartness. I am the founder and publisher of Falstaff Books, and there are actually people on this panel that I have not published yet. I'm also the author of two. Three. I've never I haven't published Nettles either.
Yeah.
I am also the author of the Quincy Harker Demon Hunter series of urban fantasy novels, the Bubba the Monster Hunter comedic horror novels, and the Black Knight Chronicles books, among other things. And in addition to publishing things, I also had a hand in Patrick's new self-published release, because I occasionally do freelance layout for my friends. So,
Stuart?
Everybody, I'm Stuart Jaffe, best known for the Max Porter Paranormal Mysteries, as well as the Parallel Society and Nathan K. thrillers. And yes, I write for John as well. I wrote the Ridnight Epic Fantasy Mystery Trilogy. And I've been writing for like 20-some years, so I got a lot out there.
Jenny?
I'm Gini Koch. I write the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series for Doll Books, and I write under 6 or 7 pen names, I lose count, in every length and every genre, and I could list them all. But I will just say that with the release of the latest anthology I'm at 70 titles. Yay.
Megan?
Hi, my name is Megan Mackie. I am the author of the Lucky Devils series, published through my own imprint, Blue Phoenix Publishing. And I just released a new series called Dead World. The first book, The Prisoner of the Dead, has just come out a few weeks ago. I don't have a picture of it here. But the first series is an urban fantasy / cyberpunk world. And the second one is about the post zombie apocalypse, after everything has fallen and we're all trying to survive.
And Mr. Nash.
Hi, I'm Bobby Nash. I write all kinds of stuff. I do a lot of thriller work, stuff like Evil Ways or Deadly Games, the Snow series, the Sheriff Myers series. I also have worked for Falstaff Books with the Hunter Houston Horror Hunter series, the first poster you can see behind me there. The second, we just did a cover reveal today as we record this of book 2, so definitely go and check that out. And yeah, that's me.
So since we're here to talk about how do we actually interact with fans, how do we do some hand selling, how do you approach conventions? Let's actually start with the easy question. So Rachel, how do you approach a convention where you're coming to set it up?
Mostly with trepidation. I am an ADHD raging introvert and have a lot of trouble with crowds and talking to people. So basically, if I can sell a book to a person in a con, anybody can do it. The main thing I have to do is I always have to have a helper because I can't keep everything straight. And make sure that you take enough books that it is a risk of a back injury anytime you move them. Did I mention the getting helpers? Because I have actually taken out my shoulder while loading books. But it's the basics. Make sure you've got a sign of some sort, a pile of books to sell, some sort of, please make it easier on yourself, a credit card processor, the ability to do basic math, any sort of business licenses you need, and any sort of pharmaceuticals you need to interact with people. Once you have all of that, I think you're ready to approach the public.
How about you, Patrick?
Well, I learned at the feet of the master, Mr. Hartness, who can sell snow to Eskimos. So most of what I learned was to relax. So when you first get started selling books, you just want to sell to every person who walks by, and you can't. you after a while you get to you read body language, and you know the people who are just wandering by and the ones who are actually interested. And so you reserve your energy for the people who actually want to interact with you instead of trying to talk to every person who walks by.
All right, John. So how about you? Other than carrying in 400 crates of books, 20 tables worth.
For the record, for MarsCon, we did not carry in 400 crates. It was 9 blue bins, 6 clear bins, and 7 cardboard boxes, plus a bookcase and 2 racks. I don't know. What do you want to know about how to approach cons? Do you want to know how to select a convention, how to choose a convention? Because all of these are things, the work starts a year before you get there.
Yep. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. I want to actually talk about when you're getting ready to go into a convention. What kind of headspace do you want to be in? How do you want to be ready to approach people? What's the one piece of tidbit or BS that you want to give everybody that is coming in, trying the first time they want to go work at a convention, the first time they want to sell a book? What's the thing they need to know?
The first time you want to sell at a convention, find somebody who knows what they're doing and share their table. Mm-hmm. Get a sliver of their table. When Patrick says he learned at the feet of the master, that's a pretty dramatic exaggeration, but he did share a table with me at conventions several times before he had enough titles to fill a table. Find people who are better than you, watch them do it, and rip them off. Yeah. Kind of like how you write books.
Yeah.
So, Stuart, looking into it, if you're going in, you're thinking about setting up a table because you've got a ton of titles. How do you pick what you're bringing into the convention?
So I kind of am jumping back to something John started his thing with, which is I kind of feel like we're getting the cart before the horse here, because all these answers are good, but they're different kinds of cons, and each one is a different answer for you. Mm-hmm. Because especially when I've got over 50 titles. So I was just this past weekend at Galaxycon, which is a massive one, very by the same people who did your background there. And it was that kind of a con. So for there, I know I'm getting 6 feet of table and I don't know, 30, 40, 50,000 people, however many are coming through, just obnoxious numbers. So I bring just about everything I can. Later this year, I am sharing a table with an author at a thing that's like half the size. So I only have 4 feet. So now I have to bring I look at my previous sales and I'm like, what are the best sellers? Because I don't have space to try and hope that my one that might sell only 2 books is going to catch fire this weekend. So it really just depends. And then if you're going into smaller cons that have other purposes besides just selling, then you have to kind of play that out too as part of what, are you do you have the time to really sit there and talk with somebody, or are you just sell?
So, Jenny, what have you learned in terms of getting ready to go walk into a convention?
Well, number one, I'm an extrovert, so I have that over everybody that isn't. I also have my career was in marketing, and I work trade shows. So I don't care where you are. There are certain rules you have to follow. Number one, you never sit. If you sit, they can walk by. I don't care. I don't let everybody sit. You know what the chairs in my booth are for? The cash box and package prep. That's it. No one sits. You want to sit? That's when your bathroom break. You get to sit then. You always smile. I don't care. If you don't feel it, fake it. Okay? And you always make eye contact. John's right. There are always going to be people walking by that aren't interested. I have a couple of things that I do. Of course, I don't have anything in front of me. We're going to pretend this is a book. If people are far away, I'll do this. My books dance. Okay? Is it stupid? Yes. Does it make people laugh? The nice ones? Yeah. And some of them walk over. If they're close enough to hear me, all I say is, what do you like to read? And then they get to talk. And if they say nothing, I say, grand, you move along and have a great show. And if they say, I write in every genre, and yet there will be things that I don't have. And so if they say, I am so into inspirational, I'm like, over there is somebody who's writing that, okay? You don't try to sell somebody who doesn't want what you've got. You want to sell what they want to read. Similar to Stuart, like I said, with 70 titles, it's a lot. I can go through it. I can fill a 10 by 10 booth by myself, or 3 6-foot tables, and still need tables in the back to pile things on. And you can't always do that. I'm going to Gen Con for the first time this year, and I'm super excited. And I don't have table space because I'm brand new and I don't know how to get there. But I am supposedly getting 2 signings. So I asked my publisher, and they're sending me 2 cases of my first book, Touched by an Alien. Why? Because I assume nobody knows who the heck I am. And therefore, they need to start with book 1, and then they can go through, and maybe by the time they've caught up to book 16, I'll have finished book 17, and it'll be published. We are sincerely hoping. So it's just some real basics. It doesn't matter where you're going. Stand up, smile, eye contact are the most important things. Oh, the other important thing, do not eat at your booth. No one wants to see somebody with food in their mouth. No one wants to see somebody chewy. Think of how often you don't look at the people in your family while they're eating, and then extrapolate that to total strangers. No one wants to see you, okay? Don't eat at the booth. If you are starving and going to faint, turn around so your back is to everybody, and take that bite of that food bar, and then after you've swallowed, then turn back around. No one wants to see the food falling out of your mouth. No one wants to watch you wiping crumbs off your face. So it's just, a lot of it's just common courtesy, but those are trade show basics that work in every situation, small or large. Yes, John.
One thing, not specifically to disagree with what Ginny says, but understand who you are and how you are perceived. If you're a 6-foot-tall man with a full beard and you look like you're biker trash and eat babies for breakfast, don't stand up. Sit your ass down and be less intimidating. I am a large man, and I displace a lot of air and water. And I don't stand up because someone who is shy and is smaller than me, if they come up to my table and I pop up or I'm already up, they ain't coming close. Right. That's why I have purple hair, to mitigate the rest of my visual presentation, which looks like I'm, running from my parole officer.
Let's be honest, we've scared people in elevators before.
On the opposite end of that is me, because I'm short. And if I'm sitting down and I have like a rack up of books,
nobody
up, you
can
literally
see you.
Won't see me. And so sometimes, you're there for 10 hours. Sometimes you take a few minutes to let your legs rest. And when I get up to go, I'll scare people. They're like, oh my goodness, somebody's there.
Yeah. But understand who you are and how people see you, and tailor your presentation to that. If you think they're going to be scared of you, then don't scare them.
I would add to that, though. There are some people who cannot stand for medical reasons and such like that, but you can always sit forward, put your energy forward, and you can still do the same thing, even if you can't physically stand there. Right. Yeah. One of the tips that I learned is to get one of those collapsible camping stools, because you can't sit back in that or you'll fall over. But you can still get off of, like, for me, it was I had dislocated my knee and I wasn't going to stand on the concrete for those many hours. So I got the camping stool and I still had to put my energy forward to pull people in.
Mhm.
And I
But
would
that's
add
an
to that,
adjustment for those who can't do it.
if
No, I think
that's
that's a really
your
good point, yeah.
situation, then you want to make sure that when you lay your books out on the table, you're doing it in a way that's going to draw the eye your way. That's going to get, you don't want to be creating a wall. When I set up my tables, I always make sure there's an area that's down so that I am visible if I need to take a break, that kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely.
Now,
After Bobby goes, I want to mention something about when you don't get to set up the table.
well, and actually, here's what I want to do, because we're going to come back to this. What I want to do is kind of set up the conversation for anybody that's thinking about doing a convention, or you've done a couple of conventions. The first thing you just saw was there's a whole lot of different ideas on all the different things you need to do. But where you start is, much like you were saying, Stuart, what conventions do you want to target? How do you identify where do you want to go? Because all the moving pieces we just talked about are all things you have to consider when you start looking to pick a convention. So, Bobby, I'm actually going to start with you on this one. How do you pick what conventions, what events you want to do?
Right, because you're absolutely right, because not every convention crowd reads everything. If you're doing a comic book show, you tend to know what type of titles to take. You're not going to sell a lot of romance books or young adult books at a comic show. Whereas I've learned that if you do a science fiction show, those folks read just about anything, and so I sell a lot of crime fiction at science fiction shows. So, but these are things I've learned over years of doing it. So if you know where you're going to be, you know what show you're going to, that can help you decide what to take. Because, like I said, once you get a lot of books, you can't take everything. There's just no way. Mm-hmm. It also determines what your setup looks like. If you're doing something like a Dragon Con or a San Diego or New York, you probably have a booth, built with stuff behind you and maybe beside you. It's a big production. You do a smaller show or a mid-level show. Like if you see us, like everybody here's probably done Con Carolinas. You see us at Con Carolinas. We have banners behind us, but we don't have a big booth set up. Mm-hmm. It's more, here's a table, here's the books. It's a simpler setup. So you just know that going into what you're doing. And then you kind of plan accordingly. But I'd also like to say, too, we were talking about all the things to take. I would say also that one thing I didn't hear mentioned, water. Take water. You are going to get thirsty. You are going to, there's a lot of people just, you're just setting up books. It's a lot of work. You're going to sweat, especially there to start. You need to keep hydrated. I usually go in with an extra shirt because I know I'm going to get sweaty sitting up. I'm going to get dirty sitting up. After I'm set up, I go into the men's room, wash up, change shirts, kind of keeps you a little cleaner and makes you a little more presentable. You don't want people, if you've got dirt smattered all over your face, people tend to, avoid you. So there's a lot of stuff like that. Presentation. I think what Gini was saying, presentation is very important, and body language is very important. We've all been to those cons where we see people that look like they would rather be anywhere else. Nobody wants to talk to you if you look like you don't want to be there, And so a lot of that is very important. You don't want to look bored. You don't want to look, you don't want to be doing this and not looking up at people when they come by. They will keep walking. You have to. It's work, and that's a big thing to know what audience you're having and plan for that.
So how do you start with picking what conventions you're going to go to?
Well, I have a very limited budget. So the first ones I look at are distance. Do I have to do a hotel? Is it something where I've got to go a day early because it's such a long drive? Like I just did a convention in Biloxi a few weeks back. That required me going a day or before the con because it's such a long ride from Atlanta. And it was the day after the con when I got home. So I had to plan that and make sure my budget can afford that. But a lot of times it's just, does it look like it's a con I would do well at? I'd never done this particular con in Biloxi, and it was like mostly authors. So I thought it would be a nice con to try, and I did fairly well there. You know, and sometimes it's there's like we have here, there's a local show. It's a one-day show. And I know you guys have one in Charlotte as well. I've been to, where they do it like 4 times a year. It's a one-day show.
Yeah,
That's usually that's right. It's more of a, I go, and if I sell books, that's great. But a lot of times it's just, I'm just there hanging out. It's my home show. You know, if I don't have a great sales day, it's still okay because I just hung out with the other local talent. And so sometimes you can kind of play those things in. You know, what are you getting out of it other than sales? You know, are you doing panels?
If I can,
yeah,
because you're hitting on something that's really important. Is a lot of everybody here has books to sell. A lot of, and in the cases, quite a few of them. But you know, there are a lot of people out there who are just getting started. They only have 1 or 2 books, and for them, the first question you have to ask yourself before you start looking at what cons to do, especially if you're writing in, you know, the science fiction fantasy genre where there are an enormous number of cons out there, is what you're looking to get out of it. Because if you're looking just to sell books, that's one kind of con. There are some cons, the smaller cons, you can sell some books, but you're not going to make a huge amount of selling going on usually, but they're really good for being on panels, so you get exposed to lots of people. They're great for networking. You know, you're more likely, for example, to get a moment to pitch to John Hartness at Falstaff Books in a smaller con than in Galaxycon, where everybody is just massively doing nothing but selling. It's not
Or
saying it's
Dragon
impossible,
Con,
but
where I've got 18 hours of programming in one day.
Yeah,
but I still sold to you at Dragon Con. I just want it known it can be done.
Mm-hmm. But
You
you're
reached out
everybody
to me because of your
and
pitch
at
at Dragon
something
Con.
like a smaller con or a Dragon Con, there's more of a bar scene going on that you can meet and network with. Whereas something like Galaxycon, again, is all about being on the floor and selling for 10 hours. And after 10 hours of that, we don't go to the bar. Some do. I mean, there's no bar in the convention center. Everyone's spreading out or just going to sleep so that they can make it through the next day. So it's really the first question you have to ask yourself as an author is, what is my goal? You know, and then you start looking at what makes your finances, your distance, and what can help that goal be achieved.
Yeah, because conventions are really one of these things that if you talk to, especially new authors, the thing they hate to talk about the most, promotion. That is most of what I do at a con falls under my promotion plan. You know, selling books is great, and that's part of why I'm there. But there are people, because we've all been to cons, you run out of money quick. You can't buy everything you see and want. People can come to my table or see me at a panel and go, "Ooh, I like that book he was talking about." And they come up and they're like, "Well, I don't have any money, but here's where you can find it." You know, so you do, you know, I sometimes see that bump in sales the week after a con because people spend all their money at the convention. At their next payday, they go to Amazon or my store or whatever. So there's a lot of to selling at a con that's not just, here, buy this.
Yeah, Megan.
I can jump in. Yeah, there have been several times last year where I completely sold out because I had too few books because of the pipeline issues that we were having, getting paper and stuff. But what I ended up doing was making posters of my books with the cover on the front and the QR codes on the back. And I can't tell you how many times people bought the book in front of me, an ebook in front of me, or the physical book in front of me, just to show that they were supporting me. So, you know, even if you've run out of product, you are there it is exactly what you said, promotional and marketing. You're there to get your name and your face and your books out there, not just to sell the books, even though that's great too.
Yeah, postcards also. There's a marketing reason that postcards are bookmarks have absolutely no perceived value. Postcards have a huge perceived value. Magnets do too, but only for the people that actually want them. But a postcard you can get a lot of use out of, including putting a QR code on the back. It can have the cover of your book and everything else, and you can print them reasonably at Vistaprint, meaning you can come loaded for bear with postcards or a variety of postcards. You know, I was mentioning the chair for package prep. That's putting in postcards. specific postcard sets or postcards that we feel this customer is likely to want. And they're great. I've sold books on the postcard, handed one to somebody at San Diego Comic-Con. She walked away, read it, spun around, came back and bought the book because I have marketing blurb. I have the blurbs on the back. So that's a really inexpensive way to be promoting your books, even if you don't have any physically here. We've all had the horror story, and every new author will hit this somewhere along the line, where wires cross and your books do not arrive at the show and you've got nothing. But if you've got your postcards with you, at least you have that and a tale of woe that people will feel very bad for you. And you're like, oh, that's so, let me buy that book right now, you poor thing. So there's lots of marketing.
And that also works for promoting what's coming. You give them something, this is coming, it'll be out next week or the week, Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we talk, everybody, I think, starts with that idea of, I want to go to the convention to go sell. And I think we kind of covered that idea that there's a lot more reasons to do a convention, show up, be there, whether it's networking, whether it's hand selling books, all the different other factors and things that you want to do. But, if you look at attending conventions, and all of us have done a lot of conventions, in fact, a lot of us have done a lot of conventions together and spent way too much time together at times.
But you know what? That's
Jim
actually
snores.
That's
Just saying,
actually
Jim snores.
Like you don't.
That's actually a bonus to doing that, because not only do you get to know people, but I don't have a helper most of the time. It's me alone. But if I need to run to a panel or run to the bathroom or run to get something to eat, I can go, hey, Stuart, I'll be back in a few minutes. Can you keep an eye on that? And we become this little community of people also, helping each other out.
If you're sharing tables with each other, or you're if I'm next to Bobby all day, all weekend, by mid of the show, I can pitch all his books for him. And I mean, that's just because that's at a big sales thing. That's, you're hearing the pitch over and over and over. And so John's now got his publishing empire building, but back when he and I were just getting started, we used to do a lot of tables together, and that's what would happen. One of us go to the bathroom, and you come back from the bathroom, and John be like, oh, I sold a couple of your books, or I do the same for John. It happened all the time.
Yeah. And so that is a great, not only is it great for at the convention, but you build these relationships that go beyond the convention. Like what we're doing here now,
When you are, go ahead, Gini.
I was going to say, I recommend you try to get on panels. I sell on my personality, and when I have assistants, which is the greatest thing in the world, but you can't have them all the time. But they always say the same thing. I know when a panel's ending because there's like this beeline of people for your table, because I've sold on my personality. So doing panels is fun. Okay, that's why we do them here. It's fun. You get to meet new authors. You get to meet, the moderator. You get to have people asking you questions in person, and it gives you good public speaking experience. And public speaking is really easy for me. It's not easy for most people. And Megan has a clear thought on that, so I'm going to let her say it.
One trick I used when I was first starting out, I'm extroverted too, but I still needed practice in the very, very beginning. One of the tricks that I used, if you're very shy and don't like to interact with people, is I got a candy bowl. And instead of saying hey, would you like a book or something like that, I'd say, hey, would you like a piece of candy? Because it was a non-pushy way of drawing people to the table, but you had to hold it. You couldn't set it down because they'd take the candy and just run. You had to hold it. They had to engage with you. And I got good practice in just talking to people as if they were strangers, as if they were friends. And then eventually the candy bowl faded away from me, and I could just, hey, you look like you like to read. Get over here. And I would pull it in on my personality. But for somebody who's really starting out and is feeling uncomfortable or naturally shy or naturally introverted, something like a candy bowl, if not a candy bowl, is a great way to kind of practice that muscle of social interaction while selling.
So since we're calling out Rachel on that.
Oh yes, the 100% introvert. Call me out. That's great.
So how do you approach it?
I do actually have a candy bowl,
Kicking and
but
screaming.
I do
And
do
with
get dragged
googly
out
eyes.
kicking.
Chocolates.
That
and
was
them.
Rachel Cardboard. It is a true story that I was replaced with a cardboard cutout at an entire con, and she sold books for me. So I don't know if it's my personality that does it. But no, I do have a candy bowl, but to make it interesting, I put durian candy mixed in because believe me, nothing gets people talking to you like having durian in your candy bowl. You can usually smell it for about 6 feet away. Other things I have to do is I can't make eye contact with people very easily. It's part of my divergent brain. I have learned to stare at people's ears because you really can't tell. I have an immunocompromised son, so for the entire near future, I'm going to be masked talking to people. So I have had to get really good at enunciation. I found that the mask actually helps a lot because it gives sort of a neutral face, so I don't have to worry about RBF, which I won't define, but I'm sure if you look it up, you'll know what it is. But no, I can say
I'm a sufferer.
yes.
Yeah.
I can say that it's not impossible if it's difficult. I will say that whatever you do, if you are not a comfortable extrovert, do plan a few small breaks. If you start feeling overwhelmed, make sure you've got a fidget toy or something you can hide under the table. I found that's very soothing. Like anything that I can focus on, and you'd be amazed at how many random bathroom trips I have had to do when I get overwhelmed. Which is why you should always have a helper, a con buddy, somebody you're familiar with near you. But, I made it through Dragon Con with, 85,000 people. So it's really important that you know your limits and your support system, and you don't feel afraid that just because you're different or just because you're not comfortable doesn't mean you can't sell books. You just have to be the best version of yourself. And often, like John says, I have to know who I am. I know that I'm weird and awkward, and I can often sell books by being that, she's just a little bit quirky. She has durian in her candy bowl. I kind of want to know more. And if you know my books, it's on brand. So.
And also,
I want to.
if you're also too starting out, it's good to remember that table between you and the people you're trying to sell to is an excellent icebreaker. That if they've walked up to your table, there's a reason, there's something there that has grabbed their attention, whether it's you or a book or a poster or whatever. So you've got that icebreaker as kind of the reason to talk to them.
I want to piggyback and expand on something Ginny said. It's not for a new writer, especially with just a few titles. It's not try to get on panels. It's don't buy a table if you aren't on panels at a con, at a sci-fi fandom level con, Mid-South Con, Con Carolinas, Mars Con, Fantasy. Don't waste the money, because if the 8 of us are on panels and have tables, and you have 2 books and no panel presence, so you have no opportunity to make people like you without a transactional basis behind it, you're going to starve while we're paying our bar tab off of the books you could have sold. Because I've seen it at multiple smaller fandom and conventions where authors have come up to me and said, "Why are you selling so much more than me?" And I typically don't respond with, "Because I'm better than you." I wait until I know people.
He's mellowed.
I was going to say typically.
I wait until I know you for that. But I have asked people, okay, I've seen you in this dealer room all weekend. When are your panels? Oh, I'm not on panels. Well, then you wasted your $200 for the table and whatever you're spending on hotel and gas and food and booze, because no one will know you. If you haven't established presence in the area, that's different. But for example, this coming weekend, Megan is one of the guests of honor at Mid-South Con in Memphis. I've done that con. It was super medium for me because while I was on panels, I wasn't on very many, and it was pretty early in my career. So driving 10 hours for that con was not a great investment at that time. I'll probably go back at some point. I like the con. I like the people.
My home
But-
con.
But I'm also booked 20 weekends out of the year now, so it's a juggling act. But if you're getting on panels is your way in to what I refer to as fandom cons, if you want to read my entire treatise on what different types of cons are and what you get out of them, go to johnhartness.com, look at the blog. I did a 7-part blog series on how to choose the cons to sell at. So go read that. At some point, there'll be a book after I finish everything
We
else.
haven't talked about.
Yeah.
We need to hear from Patrick too, because Patrick has been so polite.
That's
I'm
a
used
nice
to it.
switch, too, Patrick.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm always the boisterous one of the group. But really, to echo what everybody else has said, I'm fairly new. I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now. So it puts me in the lower spectrum of the experience. But I started off sharing tables with John. Jim and I share tables all the time. There's like 4 or 5 of us that share all the time. But like Jim and John are both experts at selling. So I just, if I blow a sale, they'll say like, this is what you did wrong. Try this next time. So, but I also do a lot of 3D printing, and I used to make beer all the time. And I get people coming up to talk to me about that more than books. And once you get into a conversation with them, then they like you, and then they want to buy your books because they're like, oh, you're cool. I want to buy a book. And so my little candy bowl is right over there. It's a 3D printed dragon. And so people come in and go, oh, I love that. And then I've got I have like these little guys that, I take around with me, and they're just nice, they're icebreakers. People look and they go, oh my God, where'd you get the dragons? Like, I made it, and
Everybody loves dragons.
Yeah, everybody loves dragons. So it really, tagging up with somebody who is more experienced than you is, you can't, on the job training is critical. Plus the costs go down. You got somebody to cover you when you go to the bathroom or you're in panels. And also a lot of times, like if Jim is selling something, I know all his books, I can sell them vice versa. But if somebody comes up and says, oh, I like steampunk, Jim just goes, oh, go talk to Patrick. I mean, you're not wasting their time, because when we're doing like Galaxycon, Stuart and John and Bobby, and so it's like we know what everybody sells. So then it's like 3 doors down, go to Stuart. He's the guy you want. Paranormal mystery, that's it. Just go right there and just tell him, hand him your wallet. He'll hand you a bunch of books, and it works.
Just off of something you said earlier, Patrick, and John's, you were talking about, John was talking about how you want to be on panels if you only have a couple books to sell rather than having a dealer's table. And this is going to sound strange because I'm sure beginning writers will be like, well, where do I get a table? Because if you only have 1 book, and maybe if you only have 2 books, you don't want to go to these bigger conventions, these massive Galaxies conventions, because the tables are much more expensive, for one thing, and so it becomes really difficult to make your money back. Get anywhere with it.
I've done it though.
It's possible.
Well,
Possible.
Yeah.
But
I
here's the thing is when I set up a table at one of these conventions, I bring somebody over to my table, I pitch them my book. If they don't like that, I've got another book, another series that's I've got another, I basically, I can sit there and say, what kind of fantasy do you like? Because I've got something for you. But if you only have 1 book, they either like it or they don't. And then they're gone. And you only get, and you don't have any chance to read through it for them to buy they buy my book this year. I come back next year. There's repeat business. It's hard to do that when you don't have inventory to, have a catalog to do that with. And there's nothing wrong. I know everybody wants to be at the big shows, but it's okay to wait till you actually have the means to actually pull it off and be successful at it.
Yeah.
There's a way to get to
even if you Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say there's a way to get the big show, and that's through bookstores. When my first con as a published author was San Diego Comic Con, my first panel as a published author.
Oh,
You lost her.
I hit something and muted myself. And fortunately, I didn't have to have a keyboard there. And I mean, it was really big. I wasn't intimidated because I come out of corporate America and nobody there could fire me if I said the wrong thing. So it was cool. But I only had one book to sell, but the bookstore had that taken care of. You know, they brought in the books, they handled everything. And when I go to San Diego, that is still the thing. I have to run what's coming through. Penguin Random House goes to the bookstore, and many times they'll let me do things on consignment. So I bring some of my small press or self-published titles, and they sell them for me on consignment. But you can never bring everything. But it does give you an opportunity if you have a bookstore relationship to do that. I was in Phoenix for 22 years before we moved here. So most of my con experience is in the Southwest. And we have bookstores there. There's Tucson Festival of Books. It's a very big book fair. And we had 2 different bookstores that would go down there. The downside on the bookstores is it's their setup and you have to fit into it. So when I had to do signings, like the first year, they had me next to a stack, just a break front of J.A. Jant's book. She's a very big mystery writer, and she is huge in the Southwest, okay? And it was like her first release in a couple of years, and people are just flocking, right? And one of the bookstore owners comes over and says, "You're not selling," I'm like, I literally said to her, I said, "Well, if you remove the break front so people could see my face, I might have a better shot. But since I'm here selling a science fiction book next to the giant mystery crowd, it's pretty hard. I'd like to see you do it." And she couldn't either. I'm like, "Why did you put me here? Tomorrow you have the science fiction people." "Oh, we thought this would be more convenient for you." It's like, so you have control for a lot. You have to make do and smile while you're not trying to.
I want to throw one in here. And this is the fun one. This is where we get into the learning experiences for our authors out there. What's one thing you've seen people do at a convention that really they should never do, no matter who you are? And we all have some good stories. Who wants to take that one first?
Me. Don't you ever steal someone else's sale. I have cut people dead, and I will never speak to them again because they walked into one of my friends in the middle of selling and snatched that customer away. You wait your damn turn. And you do not leap in and try to steal someone else's sale, especially if that someone is supposedly your friend. But I don't care. It could be a stranger standing next to you at the table next to you. You don't steal their sale. You wait.
Accidents happen, but don't do it deliberately.
Yeah, there are people that do it because they just don't care.
Those are horrible people, and they shouldn't be allowed to.
I've had a table across from people that were poaching people directly that we were talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm back. All right.
Stop talking about John.
Talking about you, but we thought it would speak you back.
No, these would be people that I've not seen at a convention in years and years since they did that.
Yeah.
But
similar to Jenny's, because this literally just happened to me. Was I was going through a sales pitch to somebody, and another author from a different table came up to mine. He wanted to talk to me about something, and he just started talking. And so because he started talking, I assumed he had understood common courtesy and the situation. So I assumed somebody's dead, somebody's going to the hospital, something major has to be dealt with. So I looked at him, discovered it meant nothing. I looked back and the person was gone.
Oh,
yeah.
And I'm like, you don't interrupt somebody's sale in any way.
Yeah, there's also, there is a bit of professionalism we have to show being back here. I've seen people that throw fits or temper tantrums if it's not going their way, or just I'm going to use it here. You know, there are people that are going like, fuck this con. This isn't working well. Or, you know, why aren't you doing it? And they're just upset, and they're just making it miserable for anyone to come on your particular aisle. And so to avoid that particular person, they avoid everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a hyper aggressive pitch that does that. I lost a couple $100 at one con because the guy next to me was one of those call people 2 tables away to come get.
Yeah. Too aggressive. I had another situation where I was at a table where there were 2 or 3 of us, and we were selling together, and this person was going down the line systematically, checking us all out, and we were going to get a group sale happening. But the one guy to my left pitched his book, the person liked it, okay, great. And then when they went to go talk to the next person, he kept interjecting to continue a different conversation that had nothing to do with the books. And I finally had to look at him and like through gritted teeth, guys like, let him pitch his book. Shut up.
Yeah.
This is where sometimes it's a benefit to look like you're running from your parole officer, because most people don't step on my pitch twice.
Yeah.
No one steps
I
on
have a
mine
good one.
And I don't look like you.
Here's one that please, this actually happened to me in reverse. I was a customer. Never insult your customers, particularly at science fiction. As this person didn't know who I was, I guess, and was talking about how vampire novels all suck. Anyone who writes them is an idiot. It's a hackneyed piece of trash. And also, you're a woman. Why are you looking at me for lit RPG? Yeah.
Wow. He did not want that sale.
So I guess
Yeah.
the 6 vampire novels I wrote mean I'm trash. Oh, the award-winning ones. Yeah, okay. And I was actually interested in lit RPG because I write that too. Bye. So please do not assume if someone is coming up, always give them the benefit of the doubt, even if they don't look like your traditional customer. Don't start with an insult because they will talk, and I made sure nobody else went to that table for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna. There's assholes in every group, I guess is the best way to say it, and there
All
are
right here.
but they are in
With
the
purple
audience
hair.
too. There are people that come to your table that really are just there to make them, you know, that they either come up with snarky comments or they come up and put down what you've done or just make a butt out of themselves. And, you know, it happens. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And so you have to deal with that.
So
I have one after Patrick. Patrick has one. I saw him trying to talk.
That's okay. My big thing is be nice to the con staff. I have seen people melt down on like some of the most just wonderful people I know because the con was not going, especially in, you know, with things reopening. Maybe people aren't spending as much or the audience isn't as big, and they're like going off on the con organizers. And it's like, you know, first of all, that's a great way to never get invited back. And second of all, those people work their asses off to make sure that you have a place to sell books and do panels. So, you know, you need to be nice to them. You know, if there's a problem, address it, but do it in the nicest way possible.
So I made table at my last con because of con staff. They're the great. I usually make table because of con staff. I love them. Well, I was going to say the one if you're an aspiring author, and we or anybody else, and it inspired you, and you're all excited, and you want to ask questions. That's awesome. We love it. If you're not buying a book, you stand in line and you wait until we're not selling, because if you want us to do anything other than say, oh, why don't you come to my next panel? We're there to sell. We're there to sell. We're there to talk to everyone, not just you. So that's a really big one. And that I find, honestly, the rudest people that I experience on average tend to be the aspiring authors who want all of my time and all of my attention. And I'm like, I'm willing to give that to you. After that line of people have the books that they can.
And they're not going to buy a book anyway.
right.
Right, when they don't, right. I literally start with, if you'd like my help, buy my book. It's an $8 investment for the first book. How do you know you want my help if you hadn't read my Deathless Prose? Maybe you think I suck. Okay, so why don't you buy a book first?
Another to tag on to Patrick's point is that when you screw with the con staff, Rachel was talking about making another author was a dick, and she made sure that other people were not subjected to that dickishness. Con staff does the same thing, and you don't know who works where. Because I'm either the con runner or the program director for 3 different conventions throughout the Southeast, and you think I don't know every con runner in half a dozen states? Come on.
Yeah. And they're paying attention.
You think if somebody is a jerk at Fantasy this coming weekend, that's not going to affect their application to Con Carolinas for June? You damn skippy it is. Every convention has more writers applying than they have space to accommodate. So if you are a jerk, you will not be asked back.
Yes, there is something to that too. I mean, when you get invited to a con, especially if they know you and you've been to cons before, they look at how you are. You know, are you at your table most of the time? You know, we've all seen people who get a table and are never there.
Me.
You know,
I know you call me out. That's why I
still like
Patrick.
James, though.
right? But in that case, is the table the best option if you don't have anyone to run it for you? That kind of thing. So, but they notice these things. Are you easy to deal with? Do you promote?
Break down your table early?
Right. Did you promote the convention? That helps. Did you talk about it beforehand? Did you share pictures from it after it's over? You know, they look at these things, and you know, so there's a lot of things you can do to make yourself appealing as a guest, other than just having books.
All right, I want to go into a speed
Kennedy
round.
And
go ahead.
Real quick. Darren Kennedy and I did a con one time, and at the table next to us was a comic artist. Well, that comic artist at the time was also the person who was responsible for Artist Alley tables at, I don't know, the largest dedicated comic convention in the Southeast. So when all of the artists further down the row started breaking down their tables 2.5, 3 hours before the room closed, you think he wasn't making note? Because those are the same people that are going to be asking him if they can come to his show. Yeah. And when you strike your table significantly early, it causes a domino effect of people tearing down their tables, and it kills the room. It hurts sales for people, because if you walk into an aisle and you look down and there's one lonely person down at the end and everyone else is packed up and gone, you're not going down there to sell. So you have screwed other creators by you wanting to get on the road an hour earlier. And I don't care if you have to be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning. Figure your shit out and take a day off. Or don't do a con that's 7 hours from home that closes on a Sunday. Figure it out. Behave. Be there until it's time to go, and the sign on the door says you're closed. Also,
I learned from Michael Stackpole, you do not leave. If there's a whiff of money in the room, you don't leave. I don't leave till Michael is considering leaving, and Michael doesn't consider leaving until all the money is gone. And I learned at his knee. And I'm like, no, Sifu's not leaving.
We did break down at 2:55 on Sunday for a 3 o'clock close. But
I'm horrified.
That took you an hour and a half, so.
And also on the thing of things not to do that we were talking about, if for any reason you decide to play music, or you've got some kind of toy that's making noise or whatever,
don't.
First of all, just don't do it. But if you're gonna do it, be respectful volume wise of the tables around you, because as somebody who doesn't do that kind of stuff, I don't want to hear your music pounding away for a whole weekend and making me have to shout even louder to be heard over that and all that. It's such a mess. So
And driving away the customers who don't want to hear it either.
yeah.
I had a guy next to me one time had a drum, and he would.
my God.
That lasted about 2 minutes, and I was like, "You can't. You got to go."
Yeah, you just can't. I play guitar, and one of my series is called The Bluesman. And I once in a while, years ago, I'd be like, I should just bring my guitar. I could play blues and pull. But I'm like, no, I can't do that to other people. They'd be sick of hearing the same songs after 2 days, and it'd be wrong. So don't do it.
That's
So
really good, because you
tell
wouldn't
a
look
heroic
good
story?
with that guitar wrapped around your neck.
Right.
All I can say is I might be able to do an impression from Animal House that involved a guitar and a brick wall.
I gave my love.
Can I tell a heroic story of a security guard who saved my life at a con?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So this was in the time when I was still doing the candy thing, and but a chocolatier down the way saw me doing it, came over and brought me one of the, like, try this. This is a new thing I'm experimenting with. It was an almond thing filled with a little bit of like a whiskey thing. So I was like, oh, cool. Took a bite. The whiskey hit the top of my south palate, and I went and breathed in the almond. Now, throughout the day, the burly security guard with a shaved head, big man, didn't smile, nothing, didn't look like he really wanted to be there, but he'd come by and I'd give him a piece of candy. And he just kept every 3 or 4 rounds, get another piece of candy. So when I start choking and everyone's panicking because apparently nobody else knows to do the Heimlich, somebody comes up behind me, bear hugs me, and lifts me off the ground. My feet fly out. I cough up the almond, and it's the security guard I had been nice to all day. Now, I'm not saying that security guard wouldn't have saved my life under similar circumstances, but he did come by after the convention was over and helped me get all my stuff to my car to make sure I was okay. So I just want to say, like, being nice has its perks.
It does.
So-
If you're in a hotel, be nice to the hotel staff. I got to set up a night early for Multiverse simply because I walked in and asked the man who was setting up the tables, oh, is this the room? He's like, yeah. I'm like, is there any chance I can bring my stuff in? He's like, you can set up. Here, let me get, right? Yeah. So if you're just a nice, pleasant human being, it really does pay benefits.
So we're kind of coming up on time here, but I want to do a quick speed round. And I know this crowd, so this means speed round.
Okay.
I'm looking at you, Jenny. What's one piece of advice?
John's talked more than me.
What's one piece of advice for somebody that is interested in getting into working at conventions, doing hand selling? What's the one helpful piece of advice you would give them to start with? So, Mrs. Carr, I will go ahead and start with you again.
Attend some cons first and watch other people.
Patrick?
Start small. You don't want Dragon to be the first place you're trying to learn your craft.
Stuart?
Once you're actually selling, don't be afraid to experiment, pitch after different types of pitches till you find what works.
Jenny?
If you're unclear on a con or it's new, let somebody else do it the first year or two and see what they do. I never go to a new con. I let somebody else do it first.
Megan?
Something we never got to mention is there is such a thing called library cons, which are like the smallest version of what we could do. And that can be a great place to get your feet wet, practice, especially because library cons tend to have a receptive book crowd. They're looking for books. It's a library. So if you really want to start out small, try to find library cons and mini comic cons, and that can be a great way to practice.
Bobby?
Research. If a con looks interesting to you, check it out. Check out their social media presence. See what kind of stuff they posted about the con during the con. Reach out to other guests. If you with all of us here have probably done Dragon Con, or most of us have done Dragon Con. If you were interested in Dragon Con, you could reach out to me and say, hey, what's Dragon Con like? We would, people will generally tend to give you, an honest opinion, because there are probably some, shows where I'd say, it might not be the right show for you, or, but research it, find out what to expect going in.
And John.
Business gets done in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're a drinker. Bobby is not.
I am not.
Bobby's not a drinking man. Business still gets done in the bar. I don't do a booth at DragonCon because I make significantly more money talking to people in a casual setting. You're not going to get rich selling books at a convention. You quite possibly will defray all of your incurred costs and perhaps make a profit. But slinging $15 or $25 paperbacks or $30 hardcovers at a convention is not going to pay your mortgage month in and month out. But being there and being professional and networking with people who are a bit higher up on the food chain than you will help you make more money and help you do bigger and bigger events. So be where business gets done. It is unfortunate that hotel bars are not welcoming places to some folks. I'm sorry that that is the case, and I am not a big enough name to fix that. So business gets done in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Be where business gets done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out and hanging out this evening. And yes, I will second that because frequently, if I'm not at my table, it's because I'm either on a panel or I'm in the bar doing business.
You're never at your table. That's why I sell all your books.
But people show up wanting signatures. I'm great for that all day long. But before we get out of here, I want to go around and let everybody know where to find you. Website, social media, all that kind of good stuff. And because I'm that kind of person, we're going to work backwards. So, John?
You can find me and a fair chunk of the other people on this panel at falstaffbooks.com. So there. Go there. Buy my shit. Y'all
Bobby?
wouldn't let me get through a panel on cons without saying it.
I know. I'm surprised it took you this long.
You can find me at bobbynash.com is my website. I'm all over social media. I'm author Bobby Nash on Facebook, Bobby Nash Writes on Instagram, and at Bobby Nash on Twitter.
Megan?
You can find my books at amazon.com, and you can find me socially on, I have Facebook for Megan Mackie Author. Also on Instagram, it's Megan Mackie Author. And then I'm doing a TikTok thing where I do have I do videos about the things I talk about in Conquest on my TikTok, which is Megan Mackie. So if you want to see those videos, go check that out too.
Jenny?
My website is GiniKoch.com. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, and I have 2 author pages because why not? I'm also on Pinterest. I look like I'm on Instagram, but I'm not. Please stop sending me messages. I can't see them. I'm never going to be on TikTok because I can do that or I can write books, but I am incapable of doing both. And were we supposed to talk about releases?
Yeah, go ahead.
Reinvented, the anthology, The Reinvented Heart, just came out in ebook. The physical books will be following somewhere later in the year when supply chain allows it. And I have a short story, Go Where the Heart Takes You, writing as Anita Ensall in that.
Stuart?
No, it's a surprise. You can find me at stuartjaffe.com. And my books are available everywhere. And you can also, if you want to talk to me, I'm on Facebook a lot. I have a Facebook group called Stuart Jaffe's Madhouse, so join that, and you can get much easier to talk to people that way.
Patrick?
I am at patrickdugan.net. Go sign up for my newsletter. I put pictures of my cute dog in every month and talk about book stuff. So I'm on Facebook. Worlds of Patrick Dugan is my group. Patrick Dugan Author is my Facebook stuff. Same for Instagram, and I'm at P_Dugan on Twitter.
And Mrs. Carr.
See if I can get it right this time. You can find me at racheleccarr.com because the original Rachel Carr wrote vegan cookbooks. That is not me. I can be found on all the social medias as Total Recar. So that's Insta, Twitter, and Facebook. You can usually find me lurking around with the Authors and Dragons crew at authorsanddragons.com and in the Facebook group. So this year, I'm going to finally be a Falstaff author, and The Accidental Summoner will be coming out in the summer. You should check it out.
And I've been trying to herd this round of chickens. I am Jim Nettles. You can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentials.net. Of course, here at ConTinual. And we will see everybody again soon. Everybody have a good evening.